Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Leticia Colchado, and I'm very excited to be here today to share a bit about what Los Angeles County does in terms of SSI advocacy to help eligible individuals apply for SSI. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services has an extensive SSI advocacy program focused on serving general relief participants. When individuals apply for general relief, their employability is assessed, and for individuals who provide documentation of their inability to work and their disability is expected to last for a continuous 12-month period or result in death, they are referred to the SSI advocate to assist with the SSI application process. The SSI advocate will assist the participant with all aspects of the SSI application. This includes filing the SSI application electronically, accompanying participants to appointments that are related to SSI eligibility, retrieving medical records, making referrals for additional physical or mental health records, mental health services to continue to build the medical record, and providing transportation funds to attend medical appointments or SSI appointments. Additionally, a subset of our disabled homeless general relief participants are provided a modest housing subsidy under the General Relief Housing Subsidy and Case Management Program to help stabilize a participant pending a final decision on the SSI application. If a participant is denied SSI at his or her first attempt, the SSI advocate will assist with the filing of the first appeal, known as a request for reconsideration. If unsuccessful at the first appeal level, the SSI advocate will then refer the participant to a contractor who handles the SSI appeal and represents the participant at the actual appeals hearing. Obtaining approvals for SSI is quite beneficial to both the participant and the county. As my colleagues shared, it increases the income of the individual substantially. But for the county, it also enables the county to collect interim assistance reimbursement, or IAR, from the Social Security Administration for assistance the county has provided to the individual in meeting his or her basic needs while the SSI application was pending. For example, in Los Angeles County, when the SSI application is approved, the county is able to recoup both the general relief cash grant as well as any housing subsidies that were provided while the SSI application was pending. And in LA County, DPSS was able to collect approximately $13 million in fiscal year 2014-15 for these benefits. Given the importance of increasing income to help the most vulnerable and needy in the county, linkage to SSI whenever possible is vital. As such, as part of the county's homeless initiative efforts, SSI advocacy and providing housing subsidies to disabled homeless persons pursuing SSI was extensively looked at by experts in the service delivery system and within our county government and identified as a key strategy to combating homelessness. On February 9th, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors approved a comprehensive set of 47 strategies to combat homelessness. And among these 47, 2 are directly related to SSI advocacy and housing subsidies for this population. For your reference, I did bring copies of the 2 strategies. The first is C4, which is establishing a county-wide SSI advocacy program for people experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. We're targeting implementation of this broader and richer SSI advocacy program in November of 2016 upon completion of a competitive procurement process. The enhanced program will be modeled on a proven model, the Benefits Entitlement Service Team, or BEST model, which was a highly successful model that was piloted in LA County in 2009. This more comprehensive SSI advocacy program will include legal consultation and ongoing and more coordinated case management. The second strategy, B1, provides subsidized housing to homeless disabled individuals pursuing SSI. Will focus on providing housing subsidies to a subset of disabled homeless individuals receiving SSI advocacy services. Additionally, the enhanced SSI advocacy program will expand SSI advocacy beyond GR participants and leverage opportunities provided by the Affordable Care Act. For example, with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, disabled individuals have greater access to health care and have access to more focused medical care, which can be provided using Medi-Cal dollars as well, and further support their application for SSI.
Do we have any idea how many potential SSI eligibles there are statewide that aren't receiving it, given the complexity of the application process, given the number of counties that may not have these outreach efforts at the county level, I'm just wondering if we have a general idea how many are either on GR or just are eligible and are not receiving the benefit?
First question last. We don't, or last question first. We don't track the GA/GR counts in the counties because those are county programs, so I can't answer that question.
Well, the real question is, is there a way to even know how many potential SSI eligibles there are out there who are not receiving SSI? You follow me?
Yeah, we follow. Thinking, no, I don't know. Looking over here too, do we know when we get, I don't think we have a good way of estimating because it's such an individualized, monstrous application process. I'm not sure that we know the answer to that question.
No, and the best information we have, probably we could share, is the study we did on the advocacy program when it was running.
And we had the cap, and it was targeted to in CAPI, so it's probably not a great example.
I'm just wondering, because on our trip to Utah, Utah doesn't offer general relief, doesn't have a state general relief. And so everybody's effort is to make sure that all those who are eligible are receiving SSI, which is a benefit to the state, because as we've heard, it's the federal dollars. And so I was just wondering if, even though we offer general relief, fortunately as a state, but if we are doing absolutely everything we can to make sure that every person eligible for SSI is getting it. So that's why I wondered if we had a sense of how many aren't. Senator Monning?
Yeah, and just related to that, the Pro Tem's initiative, the No Place Like Home, where we're seeking to mobilize massive resources to address the intersection of homelessness and mental illness. Part of that envisions expanding resources to qualify people for eligibility. So it will be helpful to us as we move forward to get a sense by region, by city, even a back-of-the-envelope estimate of what percentage of mentally ill homeless currently aren't qualified for any benefits, who we might estimate based on their disability would at least be potentially eligible, people that we would want to throw that lifeline to try to help qualify. So part of the repurposing of the Mental Health Services Act is to direct some of those resources, not just to trying to establish more housing, but part of that does envision more resources for qualifying people for SSI, SDI eligibility.
If I may just add on, as I said before the other panelists spoke, we view SSI, SSP, again, as an important part of the social safety net. We've had projects, AB 1331 at the end of the last decade looked at SSI advocacy and assistance for foster youth who are aging out of the system. For CalWorks, we know that some of the work exempts are likely eligible, and we're aware that there are some counties that are working in that space. As Senator Monning and others have pointed out, homelessness assistance or in the mental health realm, the move to at least provide them the stability of the SSI payment is very important. So there are a lot of programs for which this plays a great big role. At one time, I had a talking point in my head that 85% of the IHSS consumers were also SSI, SSP recipients, so there's a substantial overlap there. And if you are on SSI, SSP, you are, generally speaking, categorically eligible for Medi-Cal as well. So it ties in in a very important, large way across multiple programs that the state operates. So we view it as very important.
And given that, does the advocacy assistance that you all talked about reach into those other programs where there's potential eligibility? CalWorks, the aging out foster kids, or are you just looking at the general relief population as the feeder, if you will, for the lack of a better?
It varies by county. I'll let them speak.
For us in San Mateo County, we work with all public assistance clients along with the AB 109 clients, those that were formerly incarcerated with the state prison and local county jails. A big part of our focus in that program looks at their employment status and how we can get them back to work. And our 2 advocates is housed in that division. So when we realize that a person may have disability, we will refer them to this team.
Excellent. What about LA?
In LA County, our current program focuses on general relief program, but under our enhanced program that we're expecting to implement in November, it does serve a broader population because it's going to be a county-wide SSI advocacy program where all departments would be able to refer. So it would be children's services, health services, mental health. They would all use this central SSI advocacy. Additionally, as part of the county-wide SSI advocacy, we're going to be doing jail in-reach or targeting SSI advocacy for inmates. So we'll be beginning that process 2 to 3 months prior to their release to try and get them back on SSI upon their release or gather medical records from while they were in jail.
Excellent. Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems like there's a very proactive effort to try to get people that are qualified for SSI and SSP to get the benefits that they are entitled to get. In the staff report, though, it says that many applicants are denied at first and only get the benefits on appeal. What is the challenge with the application process that could be improved, if you will, so that we can get those people that are eligible to receive services in a more efficacious and expeditious way?
I know in Los Angeles County, one of the issues that we have is, because we have a very transient population that are homeless, a lot of times it's difficult to reach them. So I think providing a housing subsidy or something to stabilize them is very key in, helping the application process to move forward towards approval. Because a lot of times they don't, sometimes they'll fall out of appointments or don't show up to appointments and ultimately end up in denial. But if we provide them a housing subsidy linked with support services, they tend to be more engaged in the process, which can positively result in approvals.
So is it fair to say that we need more ombudsman type of activities within counties, which you probably do, to help marshal them through the system to make sure that they get the benefits that they're entitled to?
I mean, I think additional staffing is always good, but again, they're a transient population. So, while we know generally where they are, and we try to outreach to them through the BEST model, they actually did street outreach, would go out looking for them. Sometimes you just can't find the homeless population, they move. And so they may have an SSI application. With DPSS, we've done a lot of efforts in terms of trying to identify alternative means of contacting them, either, through text messaging and email and whatnot, but sometimes it's just difficult to reach them and we can't find them. So
would you say the application process doesn't need to be simpler and more streamlined?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it definitely needs to be streamlined. Yes, definitely.
Are those blank? Is that a blank form? Can we see it?
Oh, yes, I have one for each member.
Please, I'd love to. And based on her response to you, I'm assuming this is a multi-appointment,
Yeah, there's.
So on average, so I come in to apply, so how many, so what's the experience?
I mean, I think it just depends on the level of the number of medical records there are to support it. Sometimes the worker has to work with a client to build a medical record before filing. So they send referrals for additional consultative examinations with our county's Department of Mental Health or Health Services. I mean, so it could be a number of follow-up medical appointments that are needed to build the record. And then, it just depends on SSI's processing.
As I'm reminded, silly me, because I'm the process is proving my disability. And so that's the this is just like.
Yes.
If you weren't disabled at the start.
You'd be finished. You would be. Hello. Thank you.
One of the other strategies also that we're doing is we have a strategy of advocating to streamline the SSI application process. It's part of our homeless initiative, E1 as well. But under the BEST model, a proven strategy that was used is that they had dedicated workers within both DDS and SSA to process the applications for the homeless clients. So that's something that we will be advocating for as we move forward and with our countywide model as well.
Madam Chair, I look at this and I'm just...
Well, you got to look at this form that they need the following information: discharge summary, inpatient progress notes, history and physical, the operative report, consultation report, outpatient clinic records, emergency records. Overwhelming.
Bring these to their doctors. The doctors spend a lot of their time.
Exactly, exactly. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Senator Stone.
No, it's
but
okay.
That sheet just got me.
We're just dealing with some people that really need help getting benefits, that are living on the street and maybe disabled, elderly, and it would seem to me, and I don't know how to go about doing this, that we should have some type of an abbreviated, simple application as a quick screening device that ascertains whether somebody has a high propensity to fall within the program, and to maybe get them immediate benefits right away while this comprehensive, laborious application is being completed to justify the administration of benefits. This is overwhelming for anybody to have to go through and have to have the cooperation of agencies, landlords, medical practitioners. Now I can see why we see so many people that are denied, because, it would take hours to go through this document.
Right. Well, days, months, I heard someone say, for the doctor to get back and to collect, we're just seeing the application. I'm sure a file is then probably as high as I am tall once you get all the attachments to substantiate the declaration. Well, it's great. Thank you to the two counties for giving us our reality check today in terms of how complex it is. I'm going to hold off and have public comment at the end of this section, so the public comment can comment on the overview, the trailer bill we're about to hear, as well as the proposals for investment, because I'm sure it's the same people who will be coming up doing Me Too's on all three sections. So again, when you look at your agenda, we'll have public comment following issue 5. Okay? Let's go on into the trailer bill language, issue 4, page 11 of the agenda, sir. We got you.
So, as I said in the overview, the governor's budget includes a proposed California Necessities Index adjustment to the SSP portion of this payment effective January 1, 2017. Page 11 explains that in great detail. There's trailer bill language required to provide that COLA. But as page 12 indicates, there are many budgetary choices and other ways to provide an adjustment to either the whole or portion of the grant. We do pass through the federal COLA every year when one is provided on the federal portion of the grant.
So I want to make sure I understand, because in the overview, you gave the total dollar amount for this investment. But as we break it down to per SSP recipient, we're looking at an increase in an individual's grant by $4.63 a month, and an increase in a couple's grant of $11.73 a month.
That's correct.
Correct, great.
Yep.
Any questions, Senator Stone?
Could you please tell me how the California Necessities Index differs from the CPI index, how that's calculated?
So the Consumer Price Index looks at the cost of everything that a typical consumer would buy, and it's a federally defined number. And the Necessities Index basically looks at food, clothing, and shelter. Okay. So it's a smaller package of goods. The CNI COLA is California-specific, California Necessities Index, and it's the same COLA. It's the same COLA factor that's used for foster care aid payments. It's the same COLA used for CalWORKS grants, unless we pick a different number in the budget process. But it basically has application in most social services programs.
Do we have an indice in the state that identifies what the percentage of rent increases in a particular year are? And if there is, what is the rent increase that the people that live in Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, what has been the percentage increase over the past year?
I don't have that data, but I believe Department of Finance's demographics unit, who's not here today, publishes that.
Is it fair,
if not monthly, then at least semi-annually on their webpage.
Is it fair to say that it's higher than 3%? Yeah.
I don't live in LA. I can't speak to that. I know that the cost of housing is included amongst other variables in that percentage, but what I hear complaints from people in my district is that the cost of housing is just getting out of control, and it seems like 3% is just a de minimis
effort to help people with the higher rents where sometimes they're taking their SSI, SSP. In some cases, the entire amount goes to nothing but rent. And so that's a strong concern for me as we try to address, realistic help for many of these people that are looking to us to have a voice for them here on the dais.
Can you talk a little bit about on page 12, maybe this is a more appropriate question for finance, I'm not sure. Why that option versus something else, versus reinstating the annual COLA? It's my understanding this is one time only. So can you just talk a little bit about some of the other options? And I know the LA, let me have the LAO first. Let me do that. If you all would go ahead and answer the question on page 12 of the agenda and just provide us your analysis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Callie Freitag with the LAO. Before I go into the options that Senate staff asked us to prepare for you, I want to make a quick technical note on the governor's proposal. If you turn to your agenda on page 11, the very bottom paragraph, we point out that we expect the CNI to be slightly lower than what was projected in the January budget because it wasn't final. So in May revise, we expect that you'll see a governor's budget proposal that's $3 million less than what was proposed in the January budget, and the grant levels will be slightly lower as well. So on the options that Senate, that Senate staff asked us to prepare, they are on the middle of your agenda on page 12. I'm going to walk through them. Our analysis of the governor's budget suggested that the governor's proposal is one way to provide an adjustment, but you as the legislature can consider your goals for overall grant levels and then target any resources you have in order to achieve those goals. So I'll walk you through these three estimates. The first estimate, the first bullet on the middle of the page, is the whole grant COLA that you alluded to. This would apply the California Necessities Index to the entire SSI SSP grant rather than the governor's proposal of solely the SSP portion, and raise the entire grant by that amount. This would bring individual grants up to 92% of the federal poverty level and couples grants up to 115% of the federal poverty level, and would cost about $230 million for a full year. So moving on to the next option, I'm just going to take them in order. Senate budget staff asked us to prepare an estimate for increasing individuals' grants to the federal poverty level, which in 2016 is $990 a month. Again, this increase would be targeted only to individuals' grants because couples grants are already above the federal.
Yes.
Yep. So this would be a roughly $100 per month increase to grants and would cost $1.25 billion for a full year. Finally, the last option that Senate staff asked us to prepare would be to increase all SSP grants for individuals and couples, and regardless of the current grant amount that they receive, because everyone receives different amounts, by $10 a month. So this would cost about $160 million for a full year, and it would keep grants around 91% of the federal poverty level for individuals and increase to 114% of federal poverty for couples. And we worked really closely with the department to prepare these estimates and just want to thank them for their support on this.
Great.
So finally, I'd like to reiterate the point that I made earlier, which is no matter what resources you have or what goals you choose, you can target those resources in order to achieve your goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Now with that, I'll go back to finance. Now they have shared a variety of options of if we were going to attempt to impact the SSP section of the grant. There are a variety of options. Could you share with, why the administration took the road they did?
So, Yang Lee with Department of Finance. The reason why we took the option that we did was consistent with what we've been doing in the past in terms of how we funded the COLA portion for the SSP. So it's just consistent in that regard.
Senator Monty, Senator Stone, any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Elliot.
Jenny Bella with the Legislative Analyst's Office. I think we would just make the note that in the past, the COLA has been provided in a different way, this sort of whole grant COLA that we mentioned earlier. I think from our perspective, it really does come down to what resources you have, and the administration had to make those decisions. And in this regard, it sort of seems like, you know, the providing a grant to the SSP portion of the grant solely is a less expensive option. It may be what they decided under competing priorities was what they could afford in the budget year. But again, based on whatever you feel like you have to dedicate to this, then those are the decisions you can make.
And I guess I asked the question because I think that strategy for me is troubling, that we come up with different ways to do it based on kind of an arbitrary dollar amount we decide we're going to invest, as opposed to either doing nothing, reinstating the COLA, making decisions every year based on affordability, what the COLA can be, but we continue to tinker with the way in which we approach these investments, and I think that's what's confusing to the general public. It's inconsistent application of policy. So that's why I really asked the question, because I didn't think it was the way it had been done in the past. I go back to the issue I raise all the time about the complete eliminations of the COLA, which I think was probably short-sighted. We were doing it on an as-needed basis per year during those lean years, but to completely eliminate it, now we've got this modified version as opposed to reinstating the COLA and being clear that the amount of the COLA would have to adjust based on affordability. So that's why I really pushed to ask the question, why this strategy? Because it just feels like it's a different strategy, a different approach, and I just don't know that that's appropriate for consistently running programs that are entitlement programs that will be here long beyond when we're all gone, that need to have some kind of consistency, I think, in application. Yes, sir.
No, simply to note, you know, as our colleagues at Finance and LAO have observed, there are multiple ways to accomplish an intent here. We typically don't provide, in my experience, COLAs to federal programs. The federal government is providing a COLA to the SSI side of this grant. It's a fiscal choice as to how we do that, and ultimately it's a choice of how much we want to invest in this population or in other competing priorities that we've already heard today and we'll hear going forward. So I understand your point about having a policy goal here. We provided a state COLA to the state portion of the grant in this case. And yes, it's a choice, as folks have pointed out.
And I agree that we should not provide a COLA to a federal program, but didn't we have an annual COLA to the SSP side of the grant up until a certain year that we then eliminated?
In the PowerPoint that we put in front of you, we have historically, but you will see at the beginning and end of that chart are the only CNI adjustments, and we've actually made outright grant reductions, and it's been a large number of years since we provided a regular annual COLA here. In fact,
and that was
even in CalWorks, which maybe you're also familiar with, we've had an annual COLA in that statute for a long period of time, and in something like 5 of the 16 years that was in place, it was actually provided, and in all those other years it was suspended, even though statute called for a regular COLA. So,
and that's my point,
yeah.
that we seem to have handled it. So for the complete elimination, which puts the extra burden on the legislature to put it back in and then figure out how to fund it year to year. That's my point, as I raise in the CalWorks section of our agenda every year. The complete elimination of the COLA, for me structurally, was just problematic. So that was my point. All right, let's see. We have heard from LAO, we have heard from Finance. Let's move on to the proposals for investment. Page 5 of the agenda. Western Center, going to come talk about restoration of SSI, SSP grant cuts in the COLA. And Western Center also on SSI advocacy for GAGR recipients.
Page 13.
We're on page 13 of the agenda. Come on down.